Good morning and welcome to the Dan Beasley Show. This show is about current events and how they relate to our everyday lives. And we would like to thank you for joining us this morning. And we're coming to you live from Hartsville, South Carolina. It's 11:02 a.m. on Saturday, July 13th, 2013. First news item for today is our probiotics, the new Prozac. Everyone knows what Prozac is. It's a medication that is used to alleviate depression. Depression seems to be rampant in America today, and probiotics are being looked at as the healthy bacteria in yogurt and other fermented foods that may be mind altering, and that the microbes within these foods may be used to help to treat depression and anxiety, according to cutting edge research. And a new proof of concept study using functional MRI offers the first evidence that the bacteria consumed in food can affect human brain function. UCLA researchers report that the study found that women who eat probiotic yogurt regularly had altered activity in the brain regions that regulate emotions and internal body sensations. For example, during an emotional reactivity test involving viewing pictures of angry or frightened faces, women who had consumed probiotics twice a day for a month showed decreased activity in these regions. This is an indication of reduced anxiety, according to neuropsychiatrist Daniel Amen, MD, a brain imaging specialist who was not involved in the research. Conversely, women who don't consume probiotics had stable or increased activity in the regions during the emotional reactivity test. A study included 36 women and was published in the peer-reviewed journal Gastroenterology. So anyway, that is coming to us from Healthline, and it's an item off of yahoo.com. And we'd like for everyone to consider that as a part of your everyday program for food. Uh, Yogurt has so many benefits, and this is another benefit that may come from this. So, anyway, it is said that most of your immune system resides in your digestive tract. So, this may be a very important study. So check it out for yourself and see exactly how this fits into your everyday life. Moving to our next news item, the six women jury in Sanford, Florida is weighing whether or not the shooting of Trayvon Martin, a black teenager, by George Zimmerman, who was a neighborhood watch volunteer, was a crime or an act of self-defense. The jury has resumed deliberating in the teen shooting, and in the case, it's drawn national attention for its implications on race and guns. Jurors heard closing arguments yesterday that offered contrasting stories of the events in the Florida townhouse complex on the night of February 26, 2012, that left Martin dead from a single gunshot wound through the heart. Prosecutors argued that Zimmerman profiled, pursued, and then murdered Martin, who was carrying a can of iced tea, a bag of Skittles, and $40 in cash at the time of the shooting. Zimmerman, 29, told police in video statements that he acted in self-defense after Martin punched him in the face and knocked him to the ground and threatened to kill him. Jurors who are scheduled to resume deliberations today will have to consider the circumstances surrounding the killing and to decide whether it was a second-degree murder or manslaughter, or whether it resulted from justifiable use of deadly force. Seminole County Circuit Judge Deborah Nelson said, reading from jury instructions. So anyway, that's what's going on in Florida today, and you may want to read further on that. That was also from Yahoo.com. Moving on, there is an item from the Motley Fool today, and it's called "Are You Ready for the Rising Tide of Cash?" And the Motley Fool is a money type of publication about investments. and things, and it's a very popular website, and you may want to check it out yourself. But anyway, this is by David Kuo, and it is often it goes into saying it's often said that when America sneezes, the rest of the world catches a cold. Well, 5 years ago, America not only sneezed, it was almost knocking on death's door. But thanks to the hefty cocktail of economic steroids administered by Ben Bernanke, America probably staged one of the greatest comebacks since Lazarus. Such can be the power of quantitative easing, which sounds more like a powerful laxative than a crude monetary stimulant. Unfortunately, though, none of us can know for sure what the impact of quantitative easing could have over the long term, though many will hazard a guess. What we do know is, however, that it has shaken the U.S. economy back to life. Facts are plain for all to see and for our economic experts to digest. And employment in the U.S. is steadily rising, and the economy is gradually expanding. Some seem surprised that this is happening, but it probably would have been more of a shock if neither one of the two occurred. Money can be a very powerful stimulant. The next step in America's economic rehabilitation is corporate recovery, and we should not harbor any doubts about that happening also. We know, for example, that the U.S. companies have been building their cash piles. It is reckoned that they have collectively salted away $130 billion last year in U.S. dollars, and this brings their total cash hoard to over $1.4 trillion over the last 5 years. Coming from the world of science, this is from WorldNet Daily, and it's talking about the changes in the day's length for planet Earth. Stutters in the Earth's spin has changed the day's length, and this is out of New Scientist. 3 times in the last decade, Earth's spin has missed a beat. These seemingly random blips cause days to temporarily stretch and shrink. They have emerged from the clearest ever view of how long a day is. Earth's spin fluctuates as the oceans and atmosphere push and tug on the planet's spin, but these small variations hide longer-term patterns, some well-known and some not. Richard Holm of the University of Liverpool and the United Kingdom looked at 50 years and GPS and astronomical data to see how long a day varied during that time. The analysis threw up a well-known cycle due to slow changes at the Earth's core, which lengthens days by a few milliseconds over roughly a decade, then shrinks them down again. So the Earth is going through cycles such as this. This is goes back to what the Bible says at the end times, that the days will be shortened, and also that the days, times and dates will be changed by man. So here is an example here where nature, or what God has created, has caused changes that are rhythmic within the confines of nature and the laws of nature, that have shown that the day has fluctuated back and forth. So we know that that some of the earthquakes that have occurred around the earth, the one especially in the Indian Ocean that caused the tsunami in Indonesia, is responsible for one of the changes. So there were a couple of other major earthquakes, one in New Zealand and one in off the coast of Argentina. No, I'm sorry, it wasn't Argentina. It was off the coast of Chile. And it was all of these were like large earthquakes, and it caused some of the GPS locations of some of the cities and islands to be moved and changed. So all of that is in prophecy. We're going into our next story about America did not survive the 1960s. This is off of Talk Radio Watch, and it's coming to you from conservativetalknow.com, and it says listen to talk radio. Dr. Savage often played golden oldies rock on his show when he came back from a commercial break. One classic song that prompted him to wonder this week was What Happened to America? How did we go from Chuck Berry to Al Sharpton? Some people say they're surprised America survived the 60s. And this person that's writing the article says, I tell them we didn't. And the person writing this is Michael Savage. Savage was inspired by Dr. Helen Smith's new book, Men on Strike, to talk about how drastically America has been altered by the 60s women's movement. He says this is a war on men that was started by the feminine mystique author Betty Friedan and other vile creatures who call themselves feminists. Savage says, Are you women, uh, pardon me, and you women who cannot find a man to settle down with have only your female cohorts to blame. Don't blame the men. Men have awakened to the fact that marriage is a rigged pinball machine. Coming from Rush Limbaugh, Limbaugh made a rare appearance, or at least a call-in on TV this week, and while he complained mildly about his recent guest on Fox and Friends, he had nothing but praise for a particular Fox News called The Five. The highly rated show, hosted by Greg Gutfeld, is approaching its 2-year anniversary. Media maven Limbaugh told the panel why he thought their show was a success. He says it's real. There's nothing contrived about it, and you all seem to enjoy what you're doing, and it's got passion. And I think passion is a magnet to anything. And out of the same article, it was talking about Alan Klein, who is also a talk show host. It says Klein wasn't about to let a little laryngitis keep him down from doing his show this week. In fact, he'd been diagnosed with an acute case of laryngitis, and doctors ordered him to rest his voice for 2 weeks. And Mark Levin, coming out of the same article this week, Mark Levin announced the upcoming release of his latest book, The Liberty Amendments. Hoping to replicate the success of his previous New York Times bestsellers, Levin says his new book demonstrates that the Constitution is more relevant and essential than ever. He says the Founding Fathers argued proving a method in the Constitution for addressing our current circumstances. America needs to resuscitate this method if they wish to restore the public. And you can check that out yourself on Talk Radio Watch. And anyway, moving on, there's a news story about, you've heard about conspiracies about bin Laden. You've heard of conspiracies about banks. You've heard conspiracies about weather changes, HARP. You've heard of conspiracies about different things in the news. About the Egyptian overthrow of the Muslim Brotherhood. You've heard of all kinds of conspiracies. Well, the new studies show that conspiracy theorists are sane and government dupes are crazy and hostile. Recent studies by psychologists and social scientists in the US and UK suggest that contrary to mainstream media stereotypes, those labeled conspiracy theorists appear to be saner than those who accept the official versions of contested events. The most recent study was published on July 8th by psychologists Michael J. Wood and Karen M. Douglas of the University of Kent, entitled What About Building 7? And they're referring to the 9/11 incident where Building 7 collapsed after the 2 World Trade Centers collapsed, and it had suffered no impact damage from aircraft whatsoever, but yet it collapsed. It seems like it's the oddity of the whole thing is that Building 7 collapsed without any real outside interference making it collapse. So their study was entitled "What About Building 7? A Social Psychological Study of Online Discussion of 9/11 Conspiracy Theories." The study compared conspiracists or pro-conspiracy theory and conventionalist, anti-conspiracy comments at news websites. The authors were surprised to discover It is now more conventional to leave so-called conspiracist comments than conventionalist ones.